What if one of the greatest legends in history was actually based on a true story? Let's uncover the real truth behind the fall of Troy. Hello, and welcome back to the story behind the stat. Today, we're digging into the myth, mystery, and reality behind the legendary fall of Troy. So buckle up, it's going to be epic. Let's start with the myth. It all comes down to one very important piece of literature, Homer's Iliad. It paints this epic tale of war, wrath, and heroism. But it's not just any war. No, sir. It's the fall of the mighty city of Troy. And let me tell you, it's dramatic. In Homer's telling, Troy stands strong for 10 long years against the invading Greeks. Both sides suffer, heroes rise and fall. But the turning point, that's got to be the Trojan horse. This massive wooden horse is a game changer. The Greeks pretend to sail away, leaving this giant horse behind. Duh. And what do the Trojans do? They bring the horse right into the city as a trophy, unknowingly bringing their doom upon them. That night, Greek soldiers hidden inside the horse come out and open the gates for the rest of the Greek army. Before you know it, Troy is sacked. The war is over. Now, there are other layers to the story. You got the gods and goddesses meddling in the war. Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite. They're all in it. Then there's the abduction of Helen, the so-called face that launched 1,000 ships. These legendary tales have inspired artists, poets, and filmmakers for centuries. But here's the thing. Stories often get passed down, changed, and adapted along the way. So what's fact and what's fiction when it comes to the fall of Troy? We'll enter part 2, the historical evidence. Now, you might be surprised to learn that real Troy did exist. Archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann uncovered its ruins in the 1870s in the Hisarlik region of modern-day Turkey. What he found was incredible. The excavations revealed signs of destruction, burnt buildings, and weapons. Things that told a story of a city under siege and ultimately sacked. But it wasn't just one story. As they dug deeper, they uncovered layer after layer of settlements, each separated by centuries. Troy was destroyed and rebuilt multiple times throughout history. But here's the big question. Could this archaeological site really be the Troy of legend? Well, considering the timeline fits pretty neatly with Homer's tale, it's a strong possibility. In fact, some researchers believe that somewhere around 1200 BC, there was a violent conflict between the Greek civilization to the west and the Anatolian civilizations to the east. Could this have been the real Trojan War? Maybe. But here's where things get interesting. The archaeological record suggests that the sack of Troy wasn't this grand finale, but rather one in a series of conflicts that shook the ancient world. So now you're probably wondering, okay, if Troy was real and there was a war, where's the evidence of a massive Greek invasion force? Well, here's the thing. It might not be as clear-cut as we think. The idea of a 10-year siege by thousands of Greek soldiers might be an exaggeration of the original event. You see, ancient people weren't exactly known for their journalistic integrity. Their accounts were often biased, exaggerated, or just plain wrong. Plus, stories like the Trojan War were meant to be epic. They wanted to glorify the heroes and the gods, not get down in the nitty-gritty details. And don't forget about the Trojan horse. Some historians and archaeologists doubt that a giant wooden horse was ever brought into the city. Instead, it might have been more of a metaphor, perhaps referring to a siege engine used by the Greeks to break through the walls. Or maybe it was just a small group of soldiers who snuck into the city using a clever trick. Bottom line, the details are hazy at best. We have to ask ourselves, why would such a huge story get twisted over time? Well, stories shape cultures. They get passed down, retold, and reinterpreted until they take on a life of their own. Think about it. This isn't the first time a story has changed. It won't be the last. With all that said, though, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's still plenty of evidence pointing to a real conflict in and around the city of Troy. And now, drum roll please, for the real cause of the fall of Troy. Are you ready? Are you sure? Okay then, let's dive in. Just like any good story, the fall of Troy probably had a motive, a reason that makes sense. And what could be a better motive than money? Think about it. Troy was situated in a prime spot for trade. It was like the crossroads of the ancient world. Goods from Greece, Anatolia, and beyond passed through its markets. Not only was Troy a hub for trade, it was also rich in natural resources. The fertile plains around the city produced crops, livestock, and wine, making it a desirable target for any ruler looking to expand their empire. So what's a hungry conqueror to do? Wage war, of course. But wait a minute, did we just create a paradox? Aren't we saying that the real cause of the war might be the same reason for the exaggeration in the stories? Well, yes, but let me explain. The idea of a great war over the riches of Troy might have been a way to explain why a city was repeatedly targeted throughout history. Each time Troy was destroyed, new rulers might have claimed that they were avenging past defeats or continuing the legacy of their ancestors,
Who
fought in the Great Trojan War. Over time, these stories built upon themselves, creating this epic saga that we know today. And that brings us to the most iconic symbol of the fall of Troy, the Trojan horse. Was it a wooden monstrosity that lulled the Trojans into a false sense of victory? Well, maybe. But let's consider another possibility. Ancient siege engines, the battering rams and catapults. They were impressive pieces of engineering. They were complex machines made of wood and bronze, often shaped like horses or other animals. Could the Trojan horse have been one of these siege engines? Maybe it was a battering ram that smashed through the city gates or a catapult that hurtled boulders over the walls. If you think about it, it makes sense. The Greeks wouldn't need to trick the Trojans if they had a powerful weapon at their disposal. Look, we're not saying that the Trojan horse didn't exist at all. There's evidence that something similar to it was used during the siege, but it might not have been quite the same as Homer described. Now, we've explored the mythical tale, uncovered the historical evidence, and even considered the real causes behind the fall of Troy. So let's wrap this up, shall we? When we look back at the story of Troy, we have to remember that history and legend often get blurred. Stories evolve as they're passed down through generations. And the further away we get from the original event, the more myths and misconceptions can creep in. But here's the fascinating part. Even with all the myths and legends, there's still a kernel of truth at the core of the story. Troy really did exist. There was a real city in the Hisarlik region of modern-day Turkey that was destroyed in a violent conflict around 1200 BC. And that brings us to the final part of our story, the impact. The story of the fall of Troy has left an indelible mark on human culture. It's inspired countless works of art, literature, and film. From Shakespeare to Hollywood, from paintings to poetry, the tale of Troy has captured the human imagination like few others. But it's also left us with this enduring mystery. A reminder that history is rarely as straightforward as we think. Every legend, no matter how fantastical, seems to have a grain of truth at its core. The fall of Troy is a testament to that. So what should we explore next? Let us know in the comments.